Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. I'm here for a couple reasons. Not just to tell you what I believe, but also to find out what you believe. Because I think really that's what everything's about. America, I believe, is like, to use an example, like a Gothic cathedral. You need both sides. Now, I'm not saying I'm a liberal, and I'm not saying that I'm certainly a Republican. But I think there are all values that we basically have in common. Among them is, I think we should get value for every tax dollar that we have. We shouldn't waste dollars. As for what's going on in Orangetown, you've said it very eloquently. And I think Mr. Murphy's point that no one wants to see anybody starving, I think we can agree on that too. However, there's a lot of areas in between. Now, who am I? Well, for the past 30 years, I've been a member of the land review boards in Orangetown. 20 years on the Architecture Community Appearance Board of Review as member and vice chairman. 10 years on the planning board, including 2 years as chair. And I was known as being very pro-community. That doesn't mean that I'm against business. What that means is when you come into an area, you're going to be part of a neighborhood. And if you're going to be a neighbor, you might as well be a good one. So if you want to make your money, that's great. We need you there as a partner. But we don't need you to clear out all the trees and then have people who are paying $30,000 a year in property taxes seeing nothing but someone else's parking lot. I think that's wrong. I've had a great deal of problems with members of the Whalen administration, and the first thing they did to strengthen the land use boards was to demote me from being chairman. And as for what's happening with Clarkstown, I negotiated that and quite a few other things. In fact, we almost had what amounted to a rebellion against what was happening. Then they came back and they were reasonable. We need good corporate partners. We need the right ones. Now, what happens with a lot of them? They come in and they say, we're here to help you. And then the first thing they do is they apply for a tax decrease, costing us money on both ends. We have a town board that's voted itself pensions, which I oppose. In fact, you may not know this. This might be something interesting. We have 2 members of my planning board, the chairman and the vice chair, who put themselves in to be part of the retirement system. Okay? Planning board. I've been serving there 30 years, haven't done that. Another project I've been involved with is the Walkway of American Heroes, which is a veterans memorial that some of you may know about. What you may not know is that has not accepted a dime from Orangetown. All of it, we had some in-kind services. 90% of the money has come from the veterans and their families. And I was a project manager on that. How much did I get for a $300,000 job supervising it? Well, if we did it through the town with their way of figuring, I probably would have got $60,000, $70,000. You know what I got? Nothing. Because I didn't want anything and I contributed things to it. I think that's what we need. We need a community. And I think right now what you guys are pushing for and what we can agree on is we need more community, not less. And community demands responsibility in addition to getting the benefits of the community. And I think we can all basically agree with that. Now, in addition to that, I'm director of an energy laboratory, and actually I teach green engineering at Cooper Union in New York City. That's not so bad, because one thing I found out, some of my biggest supporters actually behind the scenes have been Orangetown, been members of the Conservative Party. And why? Because I'm trying to conserve things, I'm trying to protect things. And they are on the same page. And I think you and I are on the same page. I've been a lifelong resident. My wife and I have 3 children. We've been paying taxes for 25 years. When my earliest remembrances were of Camp Shanks, when my parents were part of that. Then they purchased their home. How did they purchase their home? Well, like most people did. There's a little bit of savings, and my father had a job at the Orangeburg Pipe Factory. Imagine a factory person now buying a house here. And they got their 3% loan, and their house cost $90,000. My father has since passed on. Every other year, my mother's paying 1.5 times the original purchase price of her house in property taxes. Okay? Those are the people who I want to protect. I don't want to see them leaving the town. But at the same token, we have responsibilities to our citizens, and you and I could agree to disagree on that. But I think the parks, etc., I think they're good. Well, should we let private corporations do everything? Well, my experience with corporations is many of them are good and many of them are not. And you do need government to watch. As for what's going on now on our town board, we now have a 3-2 Republican majority. I don't think there's been any signs of pension rollbacks. I still see the same people getting the same contracts. I don't think there's anybody really minding the store. Now is anybody here from Orangetown? Okay, have you ever heard me at any town board meetings right now?
I go there when I'm supposed to walk.
Okay, I'm not exactly known as a wallflower, and I don't intend to be one. You know, and we may disagree on some things, we may agree on others. But I'll tell you this, you'll find out that I keep my word, and I'm looking out for the taxpayers and seeing that your money is not wasted, and I don't want to see any great expansions of everything. I think we've gone pretty far. When I was a kid, what used to happen was if you wanted to go to the pool, you went underneath the hose or the Hackensack River, or you got on your bike and went to Tallman. The idea of a high school having a pool was outrageous. Okay? We couldn't even afford a pool. But what's happened now is we've reached a point in time where, yes, we have a higher standard of living, we are better off than we used to be, but also, too, we have to be careful. When a laborer, for example, gets a raise of 3%, they're saying it's keeping up with inflation, that is manure. Because what is he getting? Maybe 1.5%. So every year they're losing. We all keep losing, and we have to watch what's going on. And without people who are interested, because right now only about 30% of the people actually vote, without people like you, our country is in deep trouble. Thank you very much.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Dell?
Pension rollback. I just like to remind you that the board has been changed, and the people on the board ran on the model that people were going to roll back the pension, and they're still on the board, and it never happened. What guarantee do we have that you're going to do that?
At this point, I think that horse might already be out of the barn. I think it'd be hard to do, but I will tell you this, I won't vote for any increases. I'll try to keep it under control. I think it's a questionable thing as to what you could do. Now, right now, we have a 3-2 majority of Republicans, and we have 2 Democrats who are retiring. As to the amount I could do, I can tell you this much. I will watch what's going on. I will keep any little secret funny deals from happening. If I see them, I will make them public, and you will definitely know about it. As for the pensions, I think the town board should set its own standards, but I think also, too, they have to be held accountable for those standards. So all I can tell you is my history. I've done all that work for the Walkway of Heroes and quite a few other things. I saved Orangetown taxpayers $500,000 back in the 1980s. And the way I did that was when the new town hall came in, that addition during the Pellegrini administration, that came in front of the architecture board. And you know what I found out they planned for that? A slate roof. And by raising a lot of stink, pardon the expression, I got them to change that. That saved people money. That's where I'm looking, to make sure we don't waste what little we have. I don't want to see my mother have to move out of her house. I don't want to see anybody's mother or uncle or whatever have to move out. I think that's wrong.
So you're not going to run on the pension that you're going to roll back on, so that's all I want to know.
I haven't really thought about it, but I'll tell you this much. When the other group came in our previous run, and they abandoned that, I wasn't very pleased, and I let them know. I will tell you that. As for the rollback, that would be pretty hard to do, I think, in this time, to get anything out of that, being yelled at as being someone who is into being an opportunist. I myself am like my mid-60s, early 60s, so the chances of me getting a pension out of it are rather minimal. Okay? But I think that it should be looked at, but we have to have the political will. Before we have the political will, we need some changes. And that's what I'm proposing, is some changes. And once we start fixing the other things, I think that's one of the things we can work on. Because I believe we have to set a tone, we have to set an example, because I'm tired of all the hypocrisy that I'm seeing out of government. I guess that half answers your question. I'm not trying to be evasive. It's just, I haven't really thought about it yet in that context.
No.
Anything else?
Does anyone else have a question for Mr. Dell?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.